You are Locked On Braves POSTCAST, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, your team every day.
Well, the Atlanta Braves rolled into St. Louis and picked up a victory over the Cardinals to begin a 3-game series as they march toward their home opener coming up later this week. But they had business to handle on the road, and that's exactly what they've done. After winning the first series of the year against the Nationals, Atlanta picks up an 8-4 win over St. Louis to start out this 3-game set. We got a little of everything in this one, including some big-time home runs, some good work from the bullpen, and a serviceable enough start from Charlie Morton. And we're going to get into all of that here on the Braves POSTCAST. As always, want to make sure you are subscribed right here on YouTube to Locked On Sports Atlanta. Go ahead, click that bell. You'll get notified every time we drop a new episode. And make sure you're following Locked On Braves all season long. You get great coverage from Jake, and I might make a guest appearance or two. Plus, you get all these podcasts in audio form in your podcast feed as well. It's available wherever you get your podcast. Now, for the Braves, wherever they go, we're looking for wins. And we got one at Busch Stadium on Monday night. Jake, it wasn't necessarily Charlie Morton's sharpest night, but that Braves offense, they sure got to work early, and they gave him plenty of breathing room.
Yeah, it's exactly what you wanted. We talked about it. It's very important to win the first game of this series. And like you said, the serviceable outing for Charlie Morton, I think, is a great description in the offense, doing what they do and getting a bunch of home runs as well, giving a nice little cushion there.
Yeah, and I think that's really what you needed to see first time out from Charlie Morton. He had to battle, I think, a bit. Not a lot of swings and misses. That's something that Charlie Morton has kind of built himself on for the last 5 or 6, 7 years. Since he became one of the preeminent strikeout pitchers in the game. We didn't see a lot of that tonight. Let's jump inside the box score and look at all of the particulars of this Braves win, and we'll start with the line. Braves now 3-1, 8 runs on 10 hits, no errors, 5 men left aboard. A 5-run second inning, really helping the Braves out in this one. Cardinals now 2-2 on the year, 4 runs, 12 hits, no errors. They left 11 men on base, just 1 hit with runners in scoring position. That was the difference on this kind of night. Charlie Morton picks up the win. He's 1-0. Jake Woodford took the loss, 0-1. No save in a game that lasted 2 hours and 46 minutes, and a crowd of 37,689 were on hand to see it. Charlie Morton pitched into the 6th inning, so that I think you take as kind of a net positive, especially when you have a nice early lead. 9 hits, though, Jake, only 1 strikeout, only 6 swings and misses. This did not feel like the Charlie Morton that we're accustomed to seeing, or at least Charlie Morton when he's really comfortable.
Yeah, definitely not the most dominating performance. I don't know if part of that has to do with this Cardinals lineup, which is really good. And as you saw all night, I mean, did a great job of fouling off pitches and extending at bats. So probably a combination of both, but also just not the sharpest outing for Charlie Morton. A couple of 0-2 pitches that he just didn't locate well, gave up a couple of hits on that. So again, just some execution errors right there. But not giving up the home runs, and there's a couple that came really close. And, that's very key as well. And that's what allowed him to work into that 6th inning. So again, I go back to the word you used that I think is perfect. This was a serviceable start for Charlie Morton. I think we'll see better ones, but it definitely wasn't a bad one, especially with the run support that he had.
And one thing that made it serviceable, to your point, was not giving up the big home run with runners on base. That did not happen as much to Charlie. In fact, he got kind of dinked and flared a little bit in this one as well, some weak contact hits. So it wasn't like with these 9 hits, he was just giving up line drives left and right. But I'm sure there's some things he's going to want to tighten up, including getting that curveball so that he can get more swings and misses from that. It's just surprising to see that on this night, Charlie Morton, despite 81 pitches, only 6 swings and misses. Again, just not very Charlie Morton-like. Not even in the second half of last season when he really started to find himself after struggling the first couple of months. So we'll see what Charlie's able to do as he looks to build on this start moving forward. Braves bullpen really backed him up, though. 3 2/3 innings of 1-run ball. The only run on a solo home run by Paul Goldschmidt that spoiled Nick Anderson's second outing of the year. And Jake, if this is the kind of weapon the Braves are trotting out there in the 6th or 7th inning, we can go back and use my keyword, which is depth, and the bullpen certainly has it.
Yeah, giving up a home run to the reigning NL MVP is not anything to be ashamed of. And other than that, Nick Anderson, I thought was spectacular.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about Charlie Morton not getting the swings and misses. Cardinals only struck out 6 times in this game. 4 of them were by Nick Anderson. So, yeah, I thought it was another great outing for him. And I think he's moving up that pecking order in the Braves bullpen depth chart right now.
Yeah, definitely think he can be. And with Raisel Iglesias down at the moment, you need guys to step up. Nick Anderson was the one that they tapped on to say, hey, we may have optioned you out toward the end of spring training. Come on back, see if you can help us out for a little while. And the early returns tell me that Nick Anderson is looking an awful lot like the guy before the arm injuries, and the Braves will be very happy to see much more of this throughout the course of the season. Colin McHugh, A.J. Minter were able to close this thing out, but as I talked about earlier on, the Braves jumped out to a nice big lead, a 5-run second inning, but don't let me overlook the fact Austin Riley hit one of the longest home runs in Busch Stadium in the first inning, 473 feet. I kept looking at the crowd to see what row it was going to land in. Then I noticed it bounced off the bricks behind all of those rows. What a blast from Austin Riley. I would imagine first of many of those for him this year.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I've seen a ball hit much further than that unless it's in a home run derby. I mean, that ball was destroyed. The Braves hit a couple that just barely snuck over the fence tonight. That was not the case with Austin Riley. I mean, he got a hanger up in the zone and absolutely destroyed it 113 miles per hour off the bat. Love to see that from Austin Riley.
Yeah, hashtag love to see it. Austin Riley, I think, in line for a 40 home run season. That's kind of what you'd expect out of him. If he's able to hit a home run, I believe, every 4 games, that should more or less put him on pace for that, if my math is correct. And we can double check that off the air. But either way, the Braves did hit 3 home runs in this game. 2 more of them came in the second inning. Ozzie Albies delivered with a 2-run shot. Then Ronald Acuña Jr. with a 3-run homer, his second one of the year. And what a night for Ronald overall. 3 out of 4 in this one. A double, a home run, the 3 runs knocked in on the homer, 2 runs scored and a walk. He was caught stealing. That might be about the only nit that you could pick about this one, but it took a perfect throw to get that done. Jake, this is the Ronald Acuña Jr. that when he's laying off pitches is going to be awfully hard to get out, and there's a reason why. He is the featured hitter at the top of the Braves order and is one of the best players in baseball. It may not have shown up last year when he was coming off that injury, but it's looking an awful lot like 2023 might be a Ronald Acuña Jr. type year.
Yeah, small sample size, obviously, early on. But again, as you said, the returns have been absolutely great in the Acuña that we're used to seeing. I love the at-bat, too. He got up 2-0, went big for a slider that ran off the plate, and then kind of came back in that at-bat and got one that was left up and hit it out opposite field, too, which you'd love to see. We didn't see that a ton from Acuña last year, driving pitches out the other way. So, again, a great sign for Ronald, who, as you said, has just been great to start the year. And now the home runs are a bit ahead of the stolen base counter, but I'm sure he'll pick up those stolen bases here pretty soon.
As you know, and you alluded to it, I am running the Ronald Acuña Jr. 40-40 tracker. We'll track them all, home runs and steals all season long. So 2 homers, 1 steal through 4 games. Still a very good pace and still very high likelihood based on the incredibly small sample size that the 40-40 season is definitely out there in front of him if he wants it. I heard Jeff Francoeur say in the broadcast, really that's the thing. If he wants to do the running, it feels like the home runs are going to be coming this year with the way that Ronald has been swinging the bat. One other thing I noticed, just kind of looking in again, just 4 games thus far, 20 plate appearances for Ronald Acuña Jr., only 2 strikeouts, Jake. I know that sometimes he gets real big with his swing, as you mentioned, and some strikeouts will pile up for Ronald at times as well. But there is a certain, I think, vintage or level that he gets to where he becomes ultra selective. He is completely locked in. The strikeouts start to fade away, and he does some serious damage. And it's starting to feel a little bit like he might be finding himself at the plate or feeling himself at the plate more appropriately.
Yeah, I think so as well. Look, a couple of things from Acuña last year that were not up to his career norms. That launch angle, which went from 18 degrees down to 10 degrees, and the walk percentage as well, that was down from, I believe, like 13% to 8 or 9%. So seeing him become more selective. Again, I like the at-bats tonight. He took some big cuts at some counts where he thought he was going to get a fastball, but he didn't, let that bother him. He still stayed in the at-bat and was able, even with 2 strikes, to put the ball in play. And with his speed and how hard he hits it, I think he's going to, have a lot of success this year, to state the obvious. And it's been really great to see Acuña, the version that Acuña we're used to seeing early on this season.
Yeah, and if we need to have a segment on this show called Stating the Obvious, where we tell you all the great things Ronald Acuña Jr. is both capable of and perhaps able to pull off here in 2023, hey, I'll make the graphic. We can do that too. But either way, it was a great night for him. Great night for the Braves offense. Home run from Austin Riley, Ozzie Albies as well. Travis d'Arnaud with another hit. 100-mile-an-hour Jordan Hicks fastball. He just laced that thing into the right field corner, picked up a run, batted in. He continues to swing the bat well here to start the season. And again, some great work out of the Braves bullpen. You add it all up, and it was a pretty nice night for the Atlanta Braves overall. Cardinals were able to scratch across a few runs, but again, 1 for 11 with runners in scoring position. That's going to make it pretty tough when the Braves are hitting home runs, especially with runners on base, to win a baseball game against this Atlanta club. Well, let's turn our attention, though, to the next game because we've got another Major League debut coming your way on Tuesday, Game 2 of this series. Left-hander Dylan Dodd, who was added to the roster officially earlier on Monday. Jared Schuster optioned down. We can talk about maybe some of the reasons for that in a moment, but Dylan Dodd will be making that start in Game 2 of this series. They also designated Jordan Luplow for assignment to clear a 40-man spot because if you may not have realized, while we've talked about Dylan Dodd starting this game since the end of spring training, he hadn't been added to the roster yet. And now he has been, and now he's going to start this game. This spring training, Jake, 18 innings, 4 earned runs allowed, 4 walks, 20 strikeouts, missing a lot of bats. I know the moment got pretty big for Jared Schuster, but I think he did a nice job of getting back on the horse after kind of getting bucked off in the first inning. What do you expect out of Dylan Dodd? Because I know we kind of have talked about these two guys interchangeably, but they are very different styles of pitchers.
They are, but hopefully Jared Schuster and Dylan Dodd have had a conversation. And now that Dylan Dodd has seen, Schuster kind of with the lights getting big for him or getting bright for him, that, Dodd can see that and maybe settle into his start a little bit more. But again, you can't prepare for the nerves that are going to happen when you get out there for your first major league start. And again, I mentioned this is a very good Cardinals lineup, and it's a pesky Cardinals lineup. They're going to battle him. They're going to work him. He's going to have to stay in that strike zone, unlike what Jared Schuster was unable to do in his first start. And defense is going to have to back him up. And I wanted to mention, because Orlando Arcia had some great plays defensively on Monday, and defense is going to have to come up big for Dylan Dodd behind him, because the Cardinals, as we saw on Monday, they put the ball in play a lot. So it's key to have a good defense behind him, which maybe means no Marcell Ozuna in left field. We'll see how that plays out there. But again, I'm expecting good things from Dylan Dodd, but it's going to be a tough challenge for him for sure.
Yeah, it definitely will be. He'll be going up against fellow southpaw Steven Matz, who'll get the ball in game 2. So we might see more of that that righty-heavy lineup against a lefty starting pitcher. So without Eddie Rosario, Marcell might be in left field, where he did play some with the Cardinals, so at least he's familiar out there. But if you've seen that play of him misjudging the wall, hopefully that doesn't happen behind Dylan Dodd tomorrow. But either way, he'll take any offense that he can get from Marcell and the other 8 guys that might be in the starting lineup. Dylan Dodd making his major league debut, 24 years old, second big league debut for the Braves here in the first 5 turns through the rotation. That hadn't happened since 2019. I believe, as far as first career starts were concerned, Bryce Wilson and Kyle Wright. So that may not have been major league debuts. I believe Kyle Wright came up late in 2018. But either way, my point is, you haven't seen too many unproven commodities in the Braves rotation at the same time to start a season. And we'll see if Dylan Dodd is able to be up to the task and the challenge of facing a very capable Cardinals lineup that did pile up some hits tonight. They out-hit the Braves, but they weren't able to pick up the win. Again, 8-4 was the final score. Braves pick up this victory. They'll look for 2 in a row, look to secure another series win on Tuesday night, 7:45 p.m. Eastern time is that first pitch. That'll bring us to the end of this edition of the Braves Postcast on Locked On Sports Atlanta. Make sure you subscribe right here on YouTube. Hit the bell to enable the notifications, and make sure you subscribe to Locked On Braves wherever you get your podcast. Braves pick up another victory, move to 3-1, and maybe I buried the lead. They moved into first place in the National League East as well. They'll look to keep winning and hold on to that spot as they face the Cardinals again on Tuesday. For Jake Mastroianni, I'm Grant McAuley. Thanks for joining us here on the Braves Postcast, and until tomorrow, so long, everyone.